Good evening and welcome to the kitesurfing question answer session. Your chance to ask me any of your kitesurfing questions, and hopefully I can help you with and get you up and riding to the next level. That is the idea. So as always, if you've got any questions, stick them in the chat, and I'll get to them as soon as I can. We've got a few in the hopper today, so it gives you a chance to start getting them locked into the hopper from there, and then I will go through them as I can. As always, if for whatever reason I seem to be ignoring you, it's not that I'm doing it intentionally. It's simply the way that YouTube chat works sometimes. Sometimes I don't see the comments the first time round, so just keep sticking them in and I will get there eventually. I promise you. It just might take a while. But it's not my intention to intentionally ignore you. That's not what I'm trying to do. Okay, so as I say, we've got a few in the hopper tonight. So let's start with them. Let me just pull them up. Just turn my volume down. There we go. So we've got one from Matt. Hey, mate, have you got any suggestions or articles of books that introduce the idea of flow or peak performance? Yeah, Matt, the two I would look at first off. The one I would look at straight off, mate, is Anders Ericsson. That's your best bet for peak performance, really any of his books. He's the one I would go to for peak performance. He is the godfather of peak performance. Take a look at him. He's where basically a lot of the other guys have kind of stolen from. So all this idea of, not stolen from, but, you know, he's the originator of a lot of these ideas. So things like the 10,000 hours to expert, all the kind of the research that's come out of that, the new ideas on deep learning, a lot of that was started by him. And he's basically spent his entire life studying peak performers across a variety of fields. So from violinists to top athletes to chess masters to martial artists, people like this. So he's been studying these people all over the place. Hi there, Alvaro. How are you, sir? Thank you for joining us. Good to have you here, mate. He's been studying them all over the place, and he's probably one of the most influential people, if not the most influential person in the field of peak performance at the moment. Flow, I would suggest there's two ways you could start with this. You could start with its creator, Mihai, the guy's name I can never pronounce. It's Mihai whatever. But he basically was the godfather of flow in the same way that Anders Ericsson is. That's a really good place to start. He's got a book that I think is simply called Flow, which is a great place to start on that. Or the other one I would suggest is Stephen Kotler, The Rise of Superman, another really, really great book on flow. And he basically takes Mihai's research and puts it in a bit more modern context, because Mihai did these research sort of 50 years ago. So flow has, there's been a lot of research done into flow in the last 50 years. And he's kind of taken it and made it a bit more modern. And it's probably, the both books are really well written. Both books are really easy to get into and really well written. Both come in from a different perspective. Stephen Kotler looks at it much more from an extreme sports point of view, whereas Mihai is looking at it much more from a human happiness point of view. Because basically Mihai realized that the people who are happiest in life have most flow in their life. Whereas Stephen Kotler looks at it much more from a kind of performance, why extreme sports athletes are increasing at such a rapid rate, and how to hack your life, if you like, to get more flow in your life. So I would probably say both of those ones. Great places to start. And a good question, Matt. Thanks for that. Much appreciated, mate. So again, we've got another one. Let me just check. We've got one from Brett, I believe. Brett, yeah, question for Thursday. I'm 225 pounds and started with 150 board. I feel this is a good light wind board now. How far down in size should I go for medium winds and high wind boards? 225 pounds. Let me just do a quick calculation. I've got no idea how much that is in kilos. Kilos, 102 kilos. Okay, so a bit more than I am. So what I would suggest from there, mate, I would probably knock it down in probably about 5 centimeter increments I'd be looking at there. So I would say 150 is good for your light wind board. Probably a bit more than 5 cents, maybe down to a 144, 145 for your medium board, and then probably a 138, 140 for your higher wind board. You could go smaller. I mean, you could take your high wind board down to about 135, I would suggest. You might find that a little bit small, to be honest. You know, I'm about 90 kg, which is what, probably around about 200 pounds. And I ride a 138 as a kind of I've just got one twin tip and ride it as my all-round board. So I would suggest, yes, something like that, you know, 138 for your higher wind board, and then a 145 for your medium board. To be honest, I personally, and this is my opinion, I think having 3 boards is a little bit overkill. I don't think you necessarily need to go there. I think if you've got a good light wind board, then I would just go. If you've got a 150, I would maybe go a 138, something like that, and that's probably enough. I think having 3 is probably a little bit, unless you've got, you know, money to burn. It's probably a little bit. It's just a little bit unnecessary, to be honest. I think you're going to be, you know, one is going to run into the other quite a lot. So I would maybe just think, okay, right, 150. Okay, I'll get a 138, 139, 140, something like that, and that's my 2 boards. You know, I take the 138 out when it's stronger. I take the 150 out when it's super light winds, and that's how I would play it, rather than worrying about a 3rd board as well. You're just going to have too much overlap, I would suggest, at that point. Okay, guys. So, any more questions? If you've got any questions, that's the ones from the hopper done. So stick them in the chat, and I will get answering. Alvaro, yes, we certainly are. We certainly are, yeah. Probably not this winter. We'll probably look at running another one. Probably be March. March or April next year, I would have thought. We may, if there's a lot of interest, we may try and squeeze one in the winter again. But we generally tend to find that kind of, you know, people now in the Northern Hemisphere aren't really thinking about kite surfing. They're thinking about skiing and things like that. So we'll probably look at it more for March, April time. I would have thought March, April, even May time. But yeah, we certainly will be running some more. So look out for them from there. Mike, I knew you were going to ask that. I knew. I was sat here this morning thinking about this, and I thought, God, I still haven't done that short line video. I know Mike's going to ask me about it. No, I haven't. I haven't, to be fair. But in my defense, we've got the camp going on this week, and I haven't had any time. And last week I was just preparing for this week, and again was running around like a crazy bugger. So as soon as we finish this camp, which finishes on Sunday, as soon as I get a day where, now it looks like crazy Levante most next week, but as soon as I get a day when it's calm, it is top of my list, and it will be out. So it is going. It is coming, sir. It is coming. So yeah, sorry about that. I know I'm being more than useless on this one, but it will happen. Timmy, not sure what you're referring to then. Twin tip, none of this barefoot nonsense. Well, I don't agree with you personally, but each to their own. Yeah, Mike, yeah, I know. I'm sorry, mate. It will come. And it's going to be amazing. Obviously, now it's got so much expectation. It's going to have to be the best video in the world. So, but it will be there. It will be there, I promise. I live in Seville. Okay, yeah, no problems, mate. Yeah, well, as I say, we're definitely going to run in them again. So yeah, as soon as we have some dates, you guys will obviously know. You know, you'll be the first to know. We'll probably also, the plan is as well, and I've been saying this for about 3 years now, but it's finally coming together. Hello, Mary. Hello, Mary. How are you? Let me know. I know you've got some big news. I want to hear it. But the idea is to run a few all over the world as well. So I'm in touch with a few different kite centers at the moment, trying to get things set up in some various different locations. I'm not going to say any more about that at the moment, but hopefully for next year, we've got something coming down the line for that one as well. Let's have a bit of a change. Come on, Mary, the suspense is killing me. Let me know. Let me know. We've had four. This is day 5 of the camp. Today wasn't great. But the last 4 days have been epic, absolutely epic. We've been out every day in amazing conditions. It's been brilliant. Yeah, today we had a bit of a rainbow watching session, waiting for wind at the beach, watching rainbows, getting wet, and sort of trying to leap in between storms. It wasn't great today, but so far it's been amazing. Yeah, the last 4 days have been. Yesterday was perfect. Literally had the whole beach to ourselves, fairly flat, some little rollers, so the guys were starting to jump on the waves. Absolutely perfect. So yeah, we've had a really good week so far. I'm rocking it. Yes. Glad to hear it, Mary. He's been westerlies to me. Yeah. He's coming east. He's switching to Levante to easterlies tomorrow. Yeah. Hello, Romain. How are you, sir? I'm rocking it. Riding around upwind, no problems. Not having any issues at all. Awesome, Mary. You've made my evening. That is perfect. Really, really glad to hear it. Still working on my sliding transitions. They are sloppy to my right still, but otherwise getting ready to jump. Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, I'm super stoked for you. Super stoked. Brilliant. I told you it was worth hanging on to. Good. And what a change. What a transformation. What was the breakthrough moment for you, Mary? What was the moment what was the thing that you changed, or the advice that you got that made everything work for you? What was that moment? If there was one, I mean, was there a moment that suddenly all clicked together? Really interesting. Okay. Just all came together. So nothing. There was no kind of light bulb moment. No huge thing. It just suddenly all rocked together. Everything came together, and okay, right. Putting your head back. Right. Okay. Yeah. That's a big one. That is a big one. Yeah. Huge. It's something that actually we've been working a lot on that this week with the guys on the camp, putting the head back and locking that back hip out. Because again, we've been dealing with a fair amount of chop, a fair amount of swell this week after the hurricane that arrived on Sunday. That was the most pathetic hurricane I've ever seen. Yeah. Push the hips forward. Again, Mary, what I would suggest on this one, what we've been kind of talking about this week is don't think about pushing both your hips forward. Think about locking your back hip out. Because the problem when you, and again, I'll just swap screen so you can see me. I'm going to give you a close-up of my groin here, which is going to be very nice for you. But if you think about getting both your hips forward, you can still be fairly kind of straight on and fairly flat, which isn't what we want. What we want is that your back hip, let's say I'm riding this way, your back hip is forward and locked, and you're having think of a bar of iron going down to your kneecap, but this hip is actually open. So it's still forward, but it's open, and it's slightly bent, it's slightly broken at the front hip. Yeah, because if you push both hips forward, you can just still be very square on. So make sure it's your back hip that locks in so you can turn and open your body up. But yeah, if you've cracked it, super happy. Super stoked for you, Mary. That is awesome. Brilliant. Mike, try to think about self-launch with a beach anchor. Anything I should be extra cautious of? Be extra cautious. Oh, Romain saw you do it. Awesome. So you've got proof. You've got actual proof. That's always good. That's always good. Anything that I should be extra cautious of? Be extra cautious of self-launching. Full stop. Anytime I self-launch, I have one hand on the release. Oh yeah, get a kite bitch to do it for you is always the best thing. Always try and have someone else do it. I know that's not always possible. With the beach anchor, the time to be super cautious, I suppose, with the beach anchor is when you are transferring the kite from the anchor to you. Because that's when things can go wrong, obviously, because you're not hooked in, you've got no control. If the kite does something weird at that point, it can really catch you out. So that is the time to be cautious, but be extra cautious of the self-launch in general. To give you an idea, the IKO officially does not allow us to teach the self-launch, because they say you should always have someone with you and always have someone who can launch you. Now, we know you're going to do it, you know, so and it's nice to have in your toolkit to be able to do. But the reason they say that is because most, you know, it's one of the times when most accidents happen. So just generally be cautious of it. You know, when I'm doing, even if you've done it 1,000 times, I am always still checking and double checking everything. The other thing to be super cautious of, I suppose, with self-launching, excuse me, is that you've set your lines up right. Because this is a classic one that we see quite a lot of, is that you come to launch your kite, so you know, you get there, you're kind of ready to go, and then, oh shit, my line's looped through the middle, or you know, they're twisted or something like this, and by then it was like, oh, now I'm halfway through this. And especially if you're doing like some sort of drift launch, or you know, a launch off the beach, you cannot then fix it, especially if you're on your own. So double check your lines, triple check your lines, check your safety works, check the eject isn't clogged up with sand or anything like that, and then go and do it. And make sure the beach anchor's in properly, because I've done that a few times. You know, put the beach spike in half-arsed, and the whole thing's just disappeared off down the beach, and you go chasing down after it. So yeah, but yeah, that's the thing. The time I'll be most cautious is the transfer, but be cautious of the whole thing. Treat the whole thing with a lot of respect, especially in gusty winds. So, Romain, I'm awesome. It's awesome to hear it, Mary. I'm so chuffed for you. I really am. Matt, what do you make of Anton's Learning to Fly series? Just watched it and trying more weight over front foot to engage full rail for jumping. Bit weird. Haven't seen it, to be honest. I don't think. I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one you are referring to be honest, Matt. There, maybe send me a link and I'll have a look at it and let you know for next time. But I'm assuming what you're talking about is that you load the front foot slightly, so you're engaging more. So you're engaging the entire rail, so that you can then resist the kite even more, which I would say is good advice. Yeah, for sure. In certain circumstances. Again, that's going to work a lot better in flat water than in chop. So, in chop, the problem with that is you are going to find that, you know, your front edge kind of digs into the chop. So it becomes a little bit less useful in chop. I find in the chop that we get into reef anyway, it becomes very difficult to do and to hold. On flat water, absolute makes perfect sense. You know, engage your front foot a bit, not a huge amount more, but a little bit more, so you're engaging the full length of the rail, because that again gives you a lot more ability to crank against the kite, especially as you're sending the kite and there's that huge amount of pull trying to pull you off the rail. It just helps you to keep that edge dug in, if that makes sense. So yeah, it works, but with caveats, I would say, with caveats. In chop, you may find it difficult. Good question, Mike. What I normally do in that situation is I will launch, like one of us will launch and roll normally, and then the other person sort of gets to the kite, gets it up, and then the person who's launched walks over, drops their kite onto the other side, and just lets it sit on the beach. Again, in stable winds ideally, and then does the launch for the other person. So that's how I normally do it with two people. Now, again, there's a lot of margin for that to go spectacularly wrong, depending on how well you trust the other person. But generally, that is the best method of doing it. So I'll just talk you through that again. So the one person launches, walks over to the other person's kite. When they're in position, they will bring their kite down on the other side, so away from the person who's launching, obviously. Drop it, let go of everything, have it sat on the beach, but in the launch position sort of thing. Then they'll just pick up the kite. Other person does all the moving, so you're just stood there holding the kite and launch it from there. That's how I would do it with two people. If you've got enough beach, you know, we're blessed in Tarifa that we can do that because we've got tons of beach. If you haven't got enough beach, then that's not going to work, obviously. Because what I don't necessarily suggest, unless you are very confident, is to be flying the kite. And I've seen this done, flying the kite while launching the person's kite. It can be done. I've also seen that one go spectacularly wrong. So yeah, that's the way that I would normally do it. But again, that's certainly not ICAO approved. The ICAO just say you should have someone to launch it. But yeah, exactly. You know, this is exactly the kind of the situation I'm talking about. How do you do it in that situation? So it's good to learn how and good to be able to do self-launches, in my humble opinion. So you need your back to the person launching. Well, in theory, yes. In theory, yeah. But what I would do is I would actually just physically move my harness around, probably, so I can kind of turn around and just hold the kite. Or, you know, you just bend at a strange angle so you're kind of holding the kite. But yeah, in theory, yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, but so in theory you would have, but you can in practice you can actually kind of twist around and do it. It works all right. Yeah, cool. Got you. Sweet. Yeah, Matt. Yeah, exactly. This is the problem. If you haven't got flat water, as again, it's a great thing to use, but again, how much you can actually engage that full rail will depend on the water state and your ability at that level. The board you're riding, as I say, it's never quite as simple as just do this and it's going to work for everyone. But if you're finding trouble with it, I would suggest maybe it's because of the flat water. Obviously, we always look for excuses outside of us as kite surfers, and that's the great thing about kite surfing. We can always blame the wind, the water, whatever, the board, the kite. That's really helpful. But in this, you know, in most cases, there is an element of truth to it as well, that it does become harder in certain conditions. Romain, I'm having trouble jumping on my left side, especially getting the position right for landing. Any advice? As in I'm going to assume, and again, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, I'm going to assume you mean position for landing, that you're kind of coming in and landing like a sack of potatoes, or you're landing and falling over the front. What you've got to realize about jumping, and as soon as you start jumping on either side, doesn't matter. What happens is as soon as you release your edge and start getting airborne, the kite is now pulling your upper body forwards, because the harness is in your upper body. It's above your weight. It's above your center of gravity. So on the water, you know, we're leant back, and because the board is resisting the kite, we can keep our position. As soon as we release that edge, because we're now in the air, the kite bases, let's say this is our body, and you jump, the kite is now pulling you from here. So you tend to fold and you start to fall towards the kite, leant forwards, which can be really uncomfortable. This is where most people have problems with landing, because they're kind of now bent, being pulled forwards into the water, rather than being able to sit back and take and hold out the jump. Now, it's interesting because we actually looked at this morning. I've got a great video, if I could find it in time, to show you. The key thing, I'm getting my body downwind. Don't understand that. Just explain that a little bit better. I'm not sure. I don't understand what you mean. They're getting your body downwind, unless it's a misspelling for board. But something that really, just while you're typing that in, just something that really helps is bringing your board like up. So as you jump, you pull your board up towards you. Why? What does that do? Well, it kind of rocks you back naturally. So then as you're pulled forward, board position, right? Yeah, okay, yeah. So this will help. This is what I thought you were meant board. This will help. Let me see if I can show you this. So what you do is, as you're in the air, you take off, and rather than leaving your legs extended, basically pull your front leg in towards you, so the board's angled nicely up. Now what that means is that you will naturally sit back, and as you're pulled forward by the kite, you are pulled into position with the board downwind, because the board is going to land at 45 degrees because you've done this. So as you see, so now I'm being pulled forward, and the foot naturally lands in front of my back foot, because my back foot is staying where it is, more or less. And it comes down at 45 degrees following the kite out. Now again, I know you can't see what I'm doing very well there, because I can't kind of get the camera far enough away, but let me just know if that, let me know if that makes sense. See if I can. And if it doesn't, I'll try and dig this video out from this morning. But let me know if that makes, because what we do when we jump normally is you just jump, and especially to start with, your legs just kind of stay where they are. You don't do anything specific with your legs. What it means is then you do this. you fall over the front, and from there it's impossible to reposition you. Or even if you do, it's too late. It doesn't matter, even if you can reposition your board. So by coming up, and rather, again, normally you do that. By coming up and doing that, so just lifting your front leg up, you see what happens to my body. My body goes back, and I'm still going to get pulled forwards, but as I get pulled forwards, I get pulled forwards onto that front leg, which lands naturally, without me having to think about it, at 45 degrees to the kite. Or sorry, at 45 degrees to the direction you were traveling, following the kite. So the board should now be pointing at the kite. Does that make sense? Or have I just totally lost you? Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, you are going to definitely find it easier on your strong side. But the key that sort of we've seen over and over again is don't necessarily try and point your board downwind. By lifting that front leg up as you jump, you don't need to worry too much about it. Because A, you stay small, so you're going to land small, but you're not going to get pulled over the front. And even if you do get pulled over the front, it just means that you land a little bit more on your front foot, so you glide out downwind rather than going crashing down. Cool, so it makes sense. Does it help? Does it sound like it could be that's what the problem is, Romain? Cool. Yeah. Okay. Well, have a go. Let me know how you get on. That's normally what we see is that people, as they take off, and it's like any sport, as soon as you leave contact with the ground, you're basically surrendering a huge amount of control, and you're now just being pulled by the kite, which is always going to pull you downwind. So it always pulls you forwards. So you have to actively resist that by leaning back a little bit. Okay, cool. Let me know how you get on, mate. Let me know how you get on. And get Mary jumping as well. That's what we want. Okay, guys. Any more questions? The other thing I would say, Romain, actually, on this one, when you are struggling on your weaker side, is most people try and think their way through it. What I find is really good with, will do, Timmy, certainly shall do. Thank you, sir. What I find is really good advice, and what I find works much better, is try not to think about it too much. Try and feel the difference. So so when you're doing it on your stronger side and you do it on your natural side, feel what it feels like. Feel what it feels like. Of course, you're going to feel what it feels like, but be aware of the sensation of what it feels like is what I mean. And then when you're going back on your weaker side, try and transfer that feeling. And often it's as easy as thinking, where am I tight? Where am I loose? What feels awkward? Because there'll often be one part of your body that feels really awkward. And what we often find with kite surfing at this intermediate stage is that it's the hips. It's that your hips are too square, or that your shoulder, your whole body is too square on. You've gone back inadvertently to that kind of square onto the kite. So again, first place I would always focus is my back hip. See what that's doing. Is it locked? Is it tight, or has it folded? Because as soon as it folds, you tend to lose control. So I would try and focus on the feeling of what you're doing rather than necessarily thinking about it too much. Because we can think, I need to move the bar this right, this 2 centimeters right, or my, the bar's at the wrong angle, or this, whatever. And then actually when it comes to trying and doing it on the water, we know what we've got to do, but it's so hard in the split second that you've got to do it to actually transfer that thought into the action. whereas feeling actually works. Really? Yes, Timmy, I certainly hope to see you on the water soon, sir. That would be awesome. That would be awesome. You can land backward. Yeah, this sometimes happens, mate. This sometimes happens. All right, fair enough. But in fact, and then this is kind of a great example of this, because in a back roll, you're probably not having too much time to think. You're probably just flinging into it and going for it and landing it. Because you've got to give it 100%. Whereas a jump, often, you do have kind of more time to think about. And the jump, in fairness, is much more about timing and other things like this. And actually, it's not as controlled in a way, because in a back roll, you are putting tension into the lines by because you're spinning, you're rotating away from the kite. So you're putting more tension into the lines. So it's a bit more easy to feel. Whereas with a jump, you are to some extent putting slack into the lines as you actually lift. So there's a loss of feel in the kite a little bit. And especially as you're coming down to land, if you're not flying the kite out, this could be the other thing. This could be the other thing, Romain, actually. It could be that you're not flying the kite out on that side. So you're just kind of dangling underneath it with no power. And then it's very difficult to do anything because there's nothing to pull against. So it's very difficult to reposition yourself because there's no power coming through the kite. So what it could be is that you need to resend the kite. So, just like a water start, you send the kite down again, which is what pulls you out of the jump and glides you off, and inadvertently pulls you off downwind. So it makes it easier to align your board downwind. Whereas if you're just coming in plop, because the kite's still fairly high, you are going to find it difficult to realign the ball because you're just kind of dangling underneath the kite. So that could be the other one. That could be the other one. It could be that you're not redirecting the kite as you start to come down. In fact, thinking about it, that's probably more possible, I would say, especially if you land in back rolls and things like that. Because you're obviously comfortable in the air then, obviously comfortable when you're aerial. So it's probably not that your board control and your body position is wrong. It's potentially the kite, I would maybe suggest. You have any advice on going upwind in light winds? Room Flax, thank you for the question. Good to see you, sir. Tons. Where to start, really, is the problem with this one. First thing I would say, go and watch the video I've done on this, on the definitive guide to riding upwind. That kind of covers every, or not every, I'm not going to claim it covers every aspect of riding upwind. It covers a lot of the basics of riding upwind, including when all you need to do is take those principles and apply them to light wind. Light wind riding upwind is very, very difficult in the sense that sometimes it's not possible. And when I mean sometimes it's just not flat out possible, but sometimes within the same session, it can be possible 1 second and not possible the next. So what a lot of people find when they're riding upwind in light winds, especially early on, when they're maybe not that experienced with light winds, is that they kind of think, right, I'm riding upwind, I can always ride upwind at this angle. When it's just not true. Riding upwind in any winds, is the same. You just notice it more in light winds that you are pinching. You are constantly readjusting your course, whether you're aware of it or not. You are heading off downwind to pick up speed when the wind drops. You are bearing back upwind when the wind when the wind picks up to gain ground upwind. So you're constantly kind of S-ing in the water is how I would describe it. Oh, the wind's died, I'll head downwind, the wind's picked up again, or I've picked some speed, I'll head upwind. Now in light wind, this becomes even more noticeable and more difficult because it's so much more subtle. The wind suddenly drops by half a knot, or even just you hit a wave. You hit a bit of chop coming towards you, it slows you down, it slows the kite down, it shoots the kite to the front of the window, and you sink. So everything becomes a lot more subtle. And this is why I love light wind kite flying for teaching, and I also hate it, because you have to be absolutely millimeter perfect with every single aspect of your control to be able to do it. So the first thing on light wind, riding upwind in light wind advice I would give is be gentle. Be really, really gentle. It's not one of these where you can just point, I'm going to go, and I'm going to get there by sheer force. It's really, really subtle. You have to really play with the wind. Okay, yeah, cool, right, the wind's just died. Okay, stand up a little bit, edge off, head downwind. Right, the wind's picked up again, edge on a little bit more. I've edged too far. I'm going to stall. Right, cool, stand up again. Working the kite at the same time. So this is kind of the big advice that I always give people is, look, you don't need to be, sometimes to ride upwind, you've got to go downwind, and you've got to be prepared in light winds, especially, that you may have to give ground at times to get back upwind, because if the wind drops by half a knot, then suddenly it's not possible to get upwind. So constantly be bearing that in mind, I would say, and try and be very light-footed, I would say, is how I would put it. Light-footed and light-handed. So you're very, very light on the bar. So, one finger from each hand is probably enough. And very, very light on your feet, by which I mean don't just kind of dig the edge in and try and muscle your way upwind, because it's not going to work. You have to be really subtle in that situation. Super subtle. So again, let me know if that helps, mate. Let me know if that touches any kind of the problem you've got. And if it doesn't, just let me know kind of a bit more specifically which part particularly, if there is a part particularly that you're struggling with in light winds. Remain, no problems at all, mate. That's what we are here for. Hope it helps. Oh, and while I'm here, sorry if any of you tuned in last week for the internet disaster. I don't know what happened. The internet just died entirely on my phone, on the Wi-Fi, everything, and wasn't able to get back online. So I apologize in advance about that. But it was literally out of my hands at that moment. It was the internet gods deciding it wasn't going to go ahead. Any more questions, guys? Any more questions? Cool. Good stuff. Good stuff, Reflex. Yeah. Riding at wind it's an art form, not a science. And it is an art form because it is this constant knowing, right, oh, I've just run out of, because literally to be riding at wind properly, you are always on the brink of stalling. Always. That's how you get upwind. Unless you're mega overpowered. So you are constantly playing with this. Oh, I've gone too far and I'm going to stall. Back to, I need to pick up speed, but I don't want to lose too much ground downwind. So it's that art form between the two. And this is why often it takes a while, especially in light wind. People can ride upwind in strong winds, no problems, because they just hooning up, dig the edge in, and off they go, and it's no worries. Whereas in light winds, it becomes very, very subtle. So yeah, so just really, really play with that, mate. But it's a skill that's worth. I say light wind flying. I love it in a sense for teaching, and I hate it because it's so frustrating. But it is so useful to do. If you can crack it in light winds, you've cracked it. Full stop. Danny, awesome. No ball strap concerns. That's definitely a big one. That is definitely a big one, mate. Glad to hear it, buddy. That is awesome. Really, really glad for you. Yeah, it does weigh on the back of your mind, doesn't it? 17 turbine, is it worth getting a 19 or should I get a 21? Mate, that is out of my experience. I would probably think it's probably not worth getting a 19. It's probably not worth getting a 19, no. It's probably 21 is probably where you want to go. Let me just move upstairs. I've just got some guys coming in. It's probably you want to go to the 21 simply because as you think of big kites, like you go from 12 to maybe 17. And that's quite a normal leap from kind of your biggest kite to your big light wind kite. Now, I would imagine it probably holds like that as you get over it as well. So I would think the leap from 17 to 19, probably in real terms, isn't that big. So I would probably go for 21. But again, I'm not the expert on this because I've never ridden a 21-meter kite. So I really, really wouldn't want to say for sure. But probably I would just go 21. It would make more sense to me for that. I mean, I always think anyway, even with normal size like 9, 12s, things like this, I like a 3-meter gap in between my kites, at least. So I think 4 meters at that size is going to be much, much better. I would think 19 is going to give you too much overlap, mate, personally. But I would double check with the guy who's selling you it, but I would think 21, personally. Danny, that would be awesome. I hope to do that as well. That would be great. Perfect. Love it. Love it. Great to hear. Any more questions? You can tell I'm in my girlfriend's house at the moment. Look what's sat next to me on the bed. It's definitely not mine, I swear. Any more questions, guys? Is that it for tonight? Is that us done? Here we go. Right, that could be a few things, Matt. You're not a big guy, are you? I think you're quite a small chap, am I right? Well, small as in like not weighing a huge amount. Because if you're a big guy, a slight kite fold while you're doing the loop could be as simple as you are sitting back a little bit too much on the kite. Then as you put all the power through it, your weight folds the kite because it just can't cope, basically. More likely is that the kite's not inflated enough. I would generally find with that. Generally, when your kite starts to fold, it's because it's not inflated enough. It can. I mean, I get it when I do it sometimes because I'm quite a big chap as well. That you just literally almost overpower the kite, and we see this really in kind of plus 100-kilo guys. Oh, you 100K? Ah, right, okay, yeah. In that case, it could definitely be that. It could definitely be that you're sitting back on it, and you're basically overpowering the kite at that point. So what you need to do in that sense is what you'll probably find is as your technique gets better and you're not so sort of concerned about sitting back, you tend to kind of sit forward more and it stops the kite from folding. But yeah, pushing the bar out a bit would help that. But yeah, it is unnatural and you don't actually want to be doing that. That's probably a body position problem where what we tend to do as we do this, especially in the jump transition, is you really sit down on the kite as you're going to do the transition, as you're going to do the loop, sorry, should I say. So just try almost standing up a bit more. And it sounds weird, but if it is this, I hope you'll know what I mean, is that you drop all your weight down through your bum. And it's natural because you don't want to get yanked over the front with a kite loop. As you relax more into it and do more of them, you will find you do that less and less and less as your body position naturally gets out of it. How would you actually actively stop it? It's a good question actually. Because this actually happened to me. This happened to me. This used to happen to me an awful lot when I first started doing them, and I'm just trying to think why they don't do them anymore. Maybe commit more to the jump. I know what I was doing was I was kind of almost sit and not get any height because I didn't want to again get whipped downwind. As soon as I started jumping higher and committing to it, it stopped happening. Um, I'm not convinced by myself that that's the best advice, to be honest, though. Um, it's a good one. It's a good one. Because it's definitely going to be due. The other one to try is inflate the kite a bit more. Inflate the kite a bit more. That would definitely help. If you are massively pumping the kite up anyway, it's going to be due to you sitting back on it. Now, again, just let me know in the chat, mate, if that actually makes sense. Do you feel like you're sitting back on it? If that makes any sense at all. Danny, no, I'm back in Tarifa. I'm back in Tarifa simply because I found that it was really difficult to actually, not really difficult, but it was much more difficult than I expected to track down the spots with wind when I was riding. Apart from going to places that I already knew, which kind of defeated the purpose. So I probably will head out again sometime in the next few months. But at the moment, I'm quite happy. I'm quite loving it here because for getting out all the time, there's not many places in the world better than Tarifa. That means that I'm managing to get on the water lots. So it's really cool. And again, I was back here as well because we're doing this camp. So I was preparing for the camp. So maybe once this is finished, I might look at what's going on again and see what's happening from there. But let's see. Let's see. At the moment, it's an open book. So let's see what happens. Eric, first of all, hello. No, I haven't tried a seat harness with a rope slide. I've tried a waist harness with a rope slide and not a seat harness. I don't see why it should be a problem. I don't see why it would be a problem at all. I can't. It probably would even in a way makes more sense on a seat harness because the waist harness itself can turn. So I would think in a way it makes a lot more sense on a seat harness. I suppose the reason they probably don't do it on a seat harness is because most people ride waist harnesses. I imagine is probably the reason why it's not done in a seat harness generally more often. But yeah, I think that would work perfectly. Yeah, it's funny, Mike, because I'm thinking the same thing. Sit back less whilst airborne. I'm not sure how. I'm just trying to think. What advice can I give you to stop doing it? And I'm not actually sure. The only thing I can think is commit more to the jump, because obviously as you commit more to the jump, you kind of get stretched by the jump. I know when I was doing it, I was really not committing to the jump, and so then staying low on takeoff. So I wasn't ever getting out of that kind. You kind of bend into the pop, to the carve at the end of the pop. I was never getting out. The kite was never lifting me out of that position. So I was just literally hopping a bit off the water, still in that tucked position, and then looping the kite. So then the kite was folding because I was sat there with almost backwards momentum. Whereas obviously, when you're going straight up and you're not going in the opposite direction to the kite will pull you where you want to go and won't fold. Again, I'm not making a very good job of this. I'm sorry about this. I'll have to think about that one. Let me think about that one, and I will get back to you next week. Because I'm not 100% sure what advice to give you there, mate. Maybe put it in the group. Maybe put that one to the group and see what they can say. Again, if you're not part of the Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/tantrum kitesurf. Go and join there and put that question to the group as well, because I would be interested to see what they say about that. Danny, pump seal completely gave way. Is it worth replacing or buying a new pump? The seal seemed to have swollen. Oh. In that case, I would. Do you mean the seal on the inside of the pump? I'm assuming the seal that actually makes the pump work, the big rubber seal on the inside. If it's completely gone, then I would. If you can get a replacement for it, you can just replace it. I'm sure. I've never seen replacements for them, to be honest. If you can find one, great. Just replace the damn thing, yeah, for sure. Because the rest of the pump should still work fine. I've never seen one. So yeah, on the inside, yeah. No, I've never seen where you'd get them. If you, yeah, like the giant onion ring. Yeah. I know what you mean. If you can find it, get one. Yeah, for sure. As I say, I'm not that much of a DIY man. I've never really looked for one either. To be fair, I've never even thought about replacing it. We've just always had like another pump lying around because we have thousands of kites. But yeah, I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be able to replace it. No problem if you can get the same kind of. Yeah, pumps aren't cheap though, are they, these days? That's the problem. Pumps aren't cheap. You know, you're still talking, I don't know, 30 euros for a pump. So if you can find something to replace it, I would certainly do that for sure. Yeah. Oh God, yeah, that's a bummer. That is a bummer. Yeah, pump failure is the worst. Still trying to think about your problem, Matt. It's got me befuddled, that one. It'll come to me tomorrow morning in the shower for sure. Well, when it does come to me, Matt, because I know you are in the group, I'll stick it in there. I'll stick it in there. Maybe do a little video on it and let you know. Yeah, that's true. That's true. The pumps are. This is one thing that we actually started to do on our pumps after a good few years. Is pump maintenance. You know, it's good once every 2 months. Just take them apart, clean them out, re-grease them, and put them back together again. It adds years to your pump. Mary, no problems. Thank you for joining it. Awesome to hear. And yeah, it would be. I can understand that. I wouldn't be kite surfing in that now. No, for sure. You have to come visit us in Tarifa. That's the only excuse. That's the only option, obviously. But yeah, stoked to hear that you got it this year. And don't worry, you will not forget it either. Once you've got it, it's there. You might lose. What you will lose, and beware of this, you may lose confidence. But you certainly will not lose any skill that you can't regain in literally 5 minutes. And don't be too stressed about that. You know, you can happily take a few months off and you'll go back to where you started from. So awesome. Welcome to the world of kite surfing, Mary. It's great to have you here. Okay, guys, 5 minutes left. Ta-da. See you soon. 5 minutes left. So any more questions? This is your last chance, or hold your peace till next week. Or until you put a post in the Facebook group, obviously. Nice one, Danny. Yeah, and I'm stoked for you as well, mate. Awesome. Good to hear. Let us know how you get on from now on. Okay, guys, looks like that is it. So I'll be signing off and getting some dinner. So I will catch you all same time, same place next week. Look forward to it. Thanks for a great session and speak to you very soon.